Somewhere in the forests of the Pacific Northwest, there may be a skeleton wearing a suit clutching $200,000 in cash that no one ever spent. Or maybe not. And that's the problem. Nobody knows. Not the FBI, not the CIA, not the hundreds of amateur detectives who have dedicated decades of their lives to this case. The man known as D.B. Cooper pulled off the most audacious heist in aviation history, and then simply ceased to exist. This is his story. It was November 24th, 1971, Thanksgiving Eve, the kind of day when Americans were thinking about turkey and family, not air pirates. At Portland International Airport, a quiet, unremarkable man approached the Northwest Orient Airlines counter. He was in his mid-40s, dark suit, black tie, white shirt, sunglasses. He paid cash $18.52 for a one-way ticket to Seattle. He called himself Dan Cooper. Nobody asked for ID. This was 1971. You didn't have to. On board Flight 305, a Boeing 727 carrying 36 passengers, Cooper took seat 18C toward the rear of the aircraft. He ordered a bourbon and soda. He lit a cigarette. By all accounts, he was calm, pleasant even. One flight attendant, Florence Schaffner, later described him as polite, the kind of man you'd forget the moment he left the room. Then he slipped her a note. Schaffner assumed it was a phone number. Men did that back then. She didn't read it immediately. Cooper leaned over and said, quietly, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." She read it. It said he had a bomb in his briefcase and he wanted $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes waiting for him when the plane landed in Seattle. If his demands weren't met, he said, no one on board would survive. The flight crew informed the captain. The captain radioed the airline. The airline called the FBI. And remarkably, the FBI and the airline decided to comply. The calculation was simple. $200,000 and 4 parachutes against 36 lives. It wasn't even a close call. While the plane circled over Seattle for hours, burning fuel and waiting for the ransom to be assembled, Cooper sat in his seat. He opened his briefcase briefly, showing Schaffner its contents: red cylinders, wires, a battery. Whether it was a real bomb or an elaborate prop, no one on that plane wanted to find out. The money, $200,000 in used $20 bills, the serial numbers photographed by the FBI, was loaded onto the aircraft. 4 parachutes, 2 military issue and 2 civilian, were also delivered. Cooper inspected them. He released the 36 passengers, he kept the crew, and he gave his final order: fly to Mexico City, low and slow, with the landing gear down and the cabin unpressurized. He wanted the back exit, the famous Boeing 727 air stair, left accessible at all times. They took off at 7:40 p.m. into a dark, stormy Pacific Northwest sky. Somewhere over the forests of southwest Washington state, at approximately 8:13 p.m., the crew felt a pressure change in the cabin. The aircraft's tail section lurched slightly. They checked their instruments. The rear air stair was open. A crew member attempted to go check. Cooper had told them to stay in the cockpit. At 10,000 feet, in the dark, in a rainstorm, with temperatures near freezing, D.B. Cooper stepped off the back of a moving aircraft. He was wearing a business suit, loafers, and a light raincoat. He had strapped approximately $200,000 in cash to his body, and he jumped. The plane landed in Reno, Nevada, as planned. The crew searched the cabin. Cooper was gone. On a seat, they found his black clip-on tie, a few cigarette butts, nothing else. No fingerprints that matched anyone in any database. The man had been so careful, so methodical, that the FBI wondered if they were dealing with a professional, a trained paratrooper perhaps, a military operative, someone who had planned this for months. The FBI launched what became one of the longest investigations in their history. They called it Norjack, Northwest Hijacking. Over the following years, they interviewed more than 800 suspects. They eliminated all but 24. They combed hundreds of miles of Pacific Northwest wilderness. They found nothing. In 1980, a remarkable breakthrough and a maddening dead end. An 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was digging on the banks of the Columbia River when he found a bundle of rotting $20 bills. The serial numbers matched. It was Cooper's money, but only $5,800 of it from one bundle. The rest, over $194,000, has never been found. The discovery raised more questions than it answered. Had he buried it there? Had the river carried it downstream? Was he dead nearby, alive somewhere else, laughing? Cooper inspired an entire wave of copycat hijackings, nearly 15 in the year after his disappearance alone. He spawned books, documentaries, Hollywood films, and an annual gathering called CooperCon, where enthusiasts meet in Washington state every year to debate theories over drinks. He became, somehow, a folk hero, the man who beat the system, the man who disappeared. Over 50 years, investigators and amateur sleuths have zeroed in on several prime suspects. Richard Floyd McCoy, a Vietnam veteran who, just months after Cooper's jump, pulled off an almost identical hijacking of a United flight, complete with parachute escape and ransom demand. McCoy was captured, but always denied being Cooper. He was killed by FBI agents in 1974 while attempting to escape prison. Then there's Robert Rackstraw, a convicted fraudster and ex-paratrooper who matched Cooper's description and had military parachute training. In 2016, investigators claimed to have found coded messages in letters allegedly sent by Cooper to newspapers after the hijacking. Messages that, they argued, pointed directly to Rackstraw. The FBI was not convinced. Rackstraw died in 2019, taking whatever secrets he held with him. The case remains, to this day, the only unsolved commercial airline hijacking in American history. Did D.B. Cooper survive the jump? Experts remain divided. Jumping from a 727 at night in a rainstorm in freezing temperatures over dense forest, wearing a business suit and loafers, most survival experts say it was near impossible. The FBI's official position leans toward Cooper dying in the jump, his body simply never found in the wilderness below. But then, who wrote the letters? Where did the rest of the money go? Why was only one partial bundle discovered miles from the projected jump zone 9 years later? Maybe he died in those trees, alone and anonymous the way he'd lived. Or maybe, just maybe, somewhere out there, an old man is sitting in a quiet house, watching documentaries about himself on television, sipping bourbon, smiling. The man in the dark suit with the bourbon and the bomb stepped off the back of a plane and into legend, and we still don't know his name. If this sent a chill down your spine, you're in the right place. Subscribe, because next week, we go somewhere even darker.